What is up, fellas? Oh, going on, party people and tube all messed up. I think YouTube's been giving everybody grief since like this whole week. YouTube has been giving everybody grief. What's going on tonight? Move the chat over. All right. All right. So what's everybody been up to, man? Hope everybody had a good weekend and that everybody got to get some flying in. If you didn't, sorry. I really didn't get to do a lot of flying this weekend either because project that you guys will see tonight. Some of you got to see it over the weekend, which was pretty cool. Because I did do kind of an impromptu impromptu live stream this past Saturday where I did some 3D modeling for this thing sitting behind me. We got the Dynam P47 hanging out. We're gonna be doing some fun things with the Dynam P47. So wanted to give a quick shout out to all the folks. We got Channel 6 Flaps, we got Mike SSI, we got Chuck GRC, we got RC Roland. Let's see. We got Colin Aero Air Shows. We got Mickey BRC, GB Linden, Shadow Ops RC, what is going on? Edward and Gloria, Hillbilly RCing from Tennessee. Welcome to the show. We got Robert Ortlep. We got George Watts. What is up, George? William Mergita. We've got Dennis Farley in the house. Welcome, Dennis. Christopher Morgan. And Pilot Jerry RC. What is going on? Welcome to the show, fellas. It is another Monday night and another Air Marshal Monday for you. And tonight we're kind of going back to the roots of getting down and dirty with some technical funky mumbo jumbo. So I hope y'all are ready. Hope y'all are ready for all that. Michael Mania, I don't even know how to say that, but welcome to the show. If you haven't been here before, welcome to Air Marshal Mondays. It is good to have you on board. Of course, I will tell Amy that that you guys said hi. So, George Watts, I will do that. Give me just a second here. Right, so I to put a link up for how to join the channel if you would like to become a channel member. Randy Geller, what is going on? Bravo's RC Build Hanger. Give me just a second, I'll get right to that. I am trying to find a way to link how to become a channel member without actually shutting down the stream. I think I can do it. So here. And that. And I'm gonna put that link in there right now. There you go, George. There's a link that I believe will get you set up and allow you to join the channel if you are not yet a member. And that brings me to another topic that I wanted to share with you guys. One of the things to remember if you are a member of the RC Air Marshal YouTube channel, that we do have a member perk where rather than just the first Monday of the month, us doing a virtual fly-in on the first Monday of every month, there is a virtual fly-in every Sunday from 6 to 8. So this past weekend, we did a virtual fly-in for members only, and only Victor Shamulus showed up, guys. So, you know, make sure if you're one of the members that you take advantage of those perks and you jump into the virtual fly-in every Sunday, and we will certainly appreciate it. Mr. George Watts, thank you so much for becoming a member of the channel. I really do appreciate your support. You've always been supportive of the channel, and we love you. So let's go. Who else we got in here? We got Spencer Keith. What is up, Joseph Youngblood, Kevin Trappin, Bravo's RC Build Hanger. All right. So what I would recommend as a first 3D printer is the Creality Ender 3 Pro. There are other printers out there that can do more. They cost more. There are some out there that can certainly do less. But the Ender 3 Pro, right size and has all the right features, get you on the right track. And it's got a lot of upgrades and stuff available for it as well. So, you know, with all of the different kind of aftermarket stuff that's available, you can get it, you can learn on it, you can get going, you know, with 3D printing and get yourself off to the right track. And as you need more feet, you can add them to the Ender 3 Pro without having to go spend $700 on an expensive printer. So that's what I would recommend is the Creality 3D Ender Pro or Ender 3 Pro. Great. I want to say you can find them between 225-ish. You check Amazon, Banggood. You know, there's a lot of different places out there where you can grab one. I think I got mine on Amazon, but I bought it, you know, quite a few years back when they were still $300. So at the current pricing of like 200, like in the low 200s, that is a printer that is hard to beat, and it's going to get you a long way with 3D, getting you learning and on the right track to getting successful prints. Oh, the mic is cutting out. Hold on. Let me do a little something, something. Oh, oh, hold on. I'm playing with probably not. Oh. All right. How's it now? Y'all will probably be able to hear some more background noise, but that's okay. Yeah. The UMX dog alarms did go off. Yeah, I just got here. Sorry about that. So yeah, I mean, I know that the weekly virtual fly-ins on Sundays at 6. I mean, right now we still got a lot of other people, or shoot, we got a lot of folks out there that are still able to get some real flying in every Sunday at 6. So for right now, I get that it's not going to be that busy, but as we move into the colder months, as we start getting into fall and winter, hopefully that will. Be something that we're filling out that room a little more. We got room for up to 32 guys in there at any given time. So come on out and fly with us in real flight every Sunday at 6 for the members only virtual fly-in. Awesome. Yeah, I had to play with the noise gates. Sorry about that. I still need to mess around with it a little more, but, for right now, it looks like it's doing pretty well. Let's see. Hello? Yes. GB, that sounds fantastic. Every time I say, I mean, take a drink. So, like I said in the beginning, everybody sit back, relax, grab a barley pop, or whatever your favorite beverage of choice is, and let's get to stepping. So, I already mentioned the thing about the weekly virtual fly-in, which is a channel perk for folks that are members of the channel. So if you want to become a member, you can come and fly with us every Sunday, 6 o'clock. And then the first Monday of every month, of course, we have the weekly virtual fly-in, or the monthly virtual fly-in, which is open to everybody. David Martin Graff, thank you, sir, for joining the channel. We certainly do appreciate your support. Thank you very much. All right. So tonight, what we're going to be talking about is getting into fixed wing first person view flying. And hopefully, like, everybody that's watching, like, the number of viewer counts didn't just drop, like, I don't give a crap about first person view flying. So, yeah, the Friday night Zoom parties are open to everybody. Those are not a member perk. Those are open to anyone that watches the channels. We can have up to 100 folks in those Friday night Zoom sessions, so be sure to join us for those too, because they are a lot of fun. Yes, FPV FWF. Hey, look, we didn't lose everybody. We still got 45 people in here watching. So we actually went up by 1, even though I mentioned FPV. All right, we're not talking drones. We're talking airplanes. More specifically, we're talking this here Dynam P51 bubble top, which I have converted over to a FPV platform. So what I want to discuss, for those of you guys that maybe are interested in doing FPV, but you don't know what you need to get, that's kind of where we're going tonight, is we're going to discuss all of the things that you need to get started with first-person FPV, and the things that I have learned. Yeah, that's what I meant is a P47. What did I say? Excuse me. Yeah, P47. Did I say P51? Oops. That's not a P-51. That's a P-47. Sorry, y'all. T and Scoot, I would hate for you to get into an accident, so you are excused, my friend. Yes, this is the Jug P-47 Thunderbolt that we have turned into an FPV plane. But what I wanted to discuss is all the things we need to get started to do first-person view FPV, and if you want to do head tracking, we can get into that as well. In fact, it's just going to happen. We're going to talk about head tracking too. So let's get on with that. We've got the live show, and I want to look at my little notes here. All right, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is the goggles. All right, and this really is the kind of the barrier for a lot of people getting into FPV, whether it's with drones, whether it's fixed wing, however it is that you are getting into first-person view flying. The goggles are usually the one thing that, like, everybody sees them and they're like, oh my God, no way. You know, it's kind of like buying a transmitter. Yeah, I mean, a good transmitter. I said it, GB. You have to drink. So I'm catching myself. Hey, that's not true, Dennis. We're going to be talking about receivers, just not those kinds of receivers. We're going to be talking about a different kind of receiver. All right, so the goggles are really the first part and the real chunk of money that you're going to spend when you're getting into FPV. And there's a couple of different types of goggles out there. And I'm going to grab both kinds. All right, so we've got what are called box goggles. Did I say it again, Jermaine? Did I say it? I'll do it. I wasn't planning on letting my cocktails get warm tonight. You know what I'm saying, fellas? All right. So this is a set of box goggles. These are the Emax transporters. These are very, very cost effective, and they're only about $40, between $40 and $50. So this is a very budget conscious way of getting yourself a set of analog FPV goggles that will let you get started doing FPV, whether it's drones or fixed wings or what. Now, the box goggles, the issue that you're going to run into with box goggles, and it's not really an issue, but along with the budget price comes a lot of, you know, necessities or shortcuts. Not even shortcuts, but I mean, you get what you pay for, right? So one of the things that I noticed right away is you've only got a cushion around like the top of your head, and along the bridge of your nose is just molded plastic. So that is an area where light can get in, and you know, one of the things that kind of define the quality of a set of goggles is the amount of light leakage that can get into the goggles when you're wearing them. And when you're wearing a set of box goggles, they're going to allow more light leakage than a set of the binocular style that I've got in the case here. So, you know, the other thing with box goggles is you're typically going to have a much wider field of view, which in some cases is great, and in some cases it's not so great. You know, and with a lot of this stuff, I'm certainly still learning. So if anybody has anything, you know, that they want to contribute in the chat, I am certainly open to discussing everyone's feedback and opinions on the topic. So they're called box goggles, George, because they look like a box. So what you got on the inside effectively is a box, right? And you've got a single screen. I believe this is a 4.3-inch LCD screen. It's not an OLED, it's a standard LCD screen. So it's kind of like having your phone sitting in front of your face. And I guess, you know, historically back in the day, they had like a box that went around them, and, you know, they went around your face and the name kind of stuck. So when you put these things on, you're looking at a big screen, you know, and there's a magnifier in there that magnifies that image from that screen. So you're kind of sitting in a theater in the first row, kind of looking up at this big, huge screen, and they work really well. Now, the problem that you're going to have with a lot of these box goggles is they're not going to have the best receivers in them. So, like I was telling Wes, we are going to be talking about receivers. The goggles is where your receiver module is located for your FPV setup. And in this one, we've got two antennas, and they're just standard antennas. This is what came with these goggles. And we'll get into some of the other types of antennas when we get to the other goggles that I've got here. So for $45 though, these work really well, and they're going to give you a really good idea of what to expect out of a decent FPV setup. You'll be able to get your camera and hook it up to a video transmitter, pipe those into here. I mean, this has all the different channels, the channel selections. I mean, this can go across all of the different bands and frequencies that are available. So like I was saying, for 45 bucks, the Emax transporter is an excellent entryway into getting started with FPV flight. So we'll set these off to the side and start talking about some of the other options that are out there. And most companies that make FPV goggles, you know, so some of the bigger manufacturers of FPV goggles are, of course, Fat Shark. Emax makes some FPV goggles. Eachine makes FPV goggles. I've got a pair of Sky Zones here that are absolutely fantastic. But the Emax goggles are, you know, are going to be more budget centric, and then as you start getting into some of the higher end Eachine and the Fat Sharks, the DJI digital goggles, you know, as you start getting into some of those, I mean, the prices start to really go up. And like I said, these guys, 45 bucks. Do they have the sharpest picture? No, they don't. Do they have a DVR where you can record what's going on? No, they don't. But they do have all the different channels. You'll be able to see your camera, and you'll be able to get up and get flying with a less than stellar picture quality, less than stellar experience. Are they worth 45 bucks? You bet they are, because they will work great for what they were intended to do. So that is the Emax box style goggles. All right. So next we're going to talk about, after I, you know, swig down a few gulps of my barley pop here. All right. Next we're going to talk about what are called binocular style goggles. And these are really the two most prominent types of goggles out there, is the binocular style and the box goggle, right? So the box goggle goes around your face, and it's got one screen that you're looking at through a magnifier that shows you that one screen, and it's kind of like sitting in the front row of a movie theater. So, you know, you've got that thing sitting all up in your face. The next style is the binocular style goggle. Now, the one thing to keep in mind is most of these goggles are going to have the transmitters built in, and these are no exception. These are the Sky Zone 030 goggles. These are wonderful, but they're also more expensive. So these cost about $400. They do have OLED screens. They've got a built-in receiver module, a diversity receiver. They've got built-in auto scanning. They've got a built-in DVR so you can record what you're doing onto an SD card. They've got an HDMI input where you can run one of the outputs of your graphics card in there so you can do simulators through the goggles, which is very immersive and a very realistic way of learning or getting the hang of FPV flight, doing it in the simulator first. You've got USB, where you can upgrade the firmware on these guys. You've got AV in, you've got AV out, you've got a headphone jack because they can stream audio through them. You've got a head tracker module built into these, so it does have an accelerometer that tracks, how they move in both the X and Y axis. So it can control a pan and tilt mechanism for an FPV camera, which is very cool. We've got a power button. This particular set has a lens, or it's got a small camera on the front. You hit this little button over here, and even with the goggles on, you can still see what's in front of you, so you can walk around. Who was that weird guy on Star Trek that had the weird thing on all the time, but he could totally tell where he was going at any given time? You can totally do that, like Star Trek style, and see everything that's going on inside the goggles, like with them on your face, you can see in front of you. What is up, Pilot Ryan? Welcome to the show, sir. All right. So, one of the big differences between this type of goggle and the box goggles is that rather than having, kind of a box sitting on your face, they're a much lower profile. They sit much closer to your head. They're typically lighter. And rather than having one big screen that you're looking at, you've got two smaller screens, one for each eye. And on the bottom, you've got these things called IPD adjusters, right, where you can slide those screens side to side and adjust, the IPD is interpupillary distance. That's some optometry terms that I'm just pulling that right out of my butt. I have no idea what they're talking about, but it's the distance between your pupils. So you can move those sliders around and get that image honed in just right for you. Also, there are sliders in there, so if you're a prescription glasses wearer, you can get like the correct diopter corrective lenses that will slide into little grooves and allow you to get a prescription lens in there to make it even more clear. Some of the newer goggles from Fat Shark, from Eachine, have a diopter adjustment as well, which will move the screens in and out and compensate for that as well. But these do not. Like I said, these were about $400, and they have the video receiver module built into them. When you start getting into like the higher level Fat Sharks, I know Fat Sharks is obviously one of the biggest brands in FPV goggles. And one of the reasons that I did not get a set of Fat Sharks, that I went with the Sky Zones, is the Fat Sharks, for their goggles that are the equivalent of these, they're a little nicer. They've got, better resolution image, and they have the diopter adjustment. The Fat Sharks cost $500, but they do not include a receiver module. So you have to buy a receiver module separate. Those receiver modules can cost anywhere from, say, $50 on the low end to about $150 on the high end. So expect to spend around another $100 on a receiver module that goes into the Fat Sharks. And then you also have to buy the antennas. This did come with some cheap antennas that were very similar to the ones that we see on the Emax goggles, but I did elect to get some different antennas, and we're going to talk about those in just a second. So, you know, that, and the reason we're touching on this so much is because, like I said, this is the, you know, kind of the biggest investment that you're going to make when you start getting started with FPV. The equipment that goes in the aircraft doesn't cost that much at all. It's like $30 for everything. But this is where the brunt of the money comes in. But just like a good transmitter, these goggles work for every airplane that you've got, or every quadcopter, anything that you're running FPV on. If you've got FPV on a boat, these are going to work. If you've got FPV in a car, these are going to work. If you've got FPV in a quad, in an airplane, helicopter, whatever the case may be, these guys are going to work on every single one of those planes. And this is also one of those investments where if you buy something that you're not happy with, you know, now you got to start all over again. So it's better, in my opinion, you know, to go ahead and drop a little coin if you want to get into FPV. Don't drop coin at first. Get you something like that. You know, get you like a $45 set of box goggles. Find out if you like FPV, and if you do, then switch over to something like a nice set of box goggles. For me, that decision came about a week later. I tried them, I loved it, and I needed to have something better. So I got these Sky Zones, and these have been absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to catch up on what everybody has been saying. Gooniac, what is up? Welcome to the show. Yeah, man, I've been trying out FPV, and I've really liked it. I've got it on a couple of quads that I've been flying around, and I absolutely love FPV. So I wanted to try it on a fixed wing airplane, and I have found the perfect donor craft in the Dynam P47. So we have fully equipped the P47 with a panning, head tracking FPV setup, and we're going to get to everything that's in the plane here in just a little bit. Hey, beer goggles are the cheapest kind of goggles, Michael Rajka. But they can also be the most expensive. Beer goggles could end up costing you for at least 18 more years every frickin' month. Yes. It is good to geek out again, Wreckham Roy. It is good to geek out a little bit. So, Farmer's RC channel? Is that you, Farmer Man? Did you change your stuff? Because I like it. The Farmer's RC channel. That's much better than Farmer Man Rose. I like it. I like the Farmer's RC channel. You've done something good. Maybe I do, Shadow. Maybe I do. Cheers. All right. So the next thing that I want to talk about when we're talking about all the different equipment for FPV stuff, all right, we talked about the goggles, the two different types of goggles, the, kind of some of the differences between box goggles and binocular goggles. Right now you can see I don't have any antennas. In fact, I just have these little rubber caps over the SMA connectors where the antennas would go. All right, so next we're going to talk about antennas. Now this particular set of goggles has diversity antennas, which means that if one antenna can't pick up the signal, the other one will try to, right? Both of those antennas are going to share the load, and whichever one's got a stronger signal, that's the one that's going to feed that signal into the receiver. So what I have is two different types of antennas that we're going to show you tonight. One of them that I'm going to put on now the antenna that I'm going to show you first is called a patch antenna. And a patch antenna is a directional antenna, right, that basically looks straight out in front of you and picks up everything that's sitting in front of you. And as you can see, you know, we're attaching the antenna now. So this antenna is called the Video Aerial Systems, or VAS Extreme. It's the Crosshair Extreme. So inside this antenna, it's got some special flashy geekiness stuff that gives it a little higher gain than your typical patch antenna, but it's still a patch antenna nonetheless. And basically what that is it's a circuit board that receives basically in like a conical, you know, like a cone in front of the antenna. So right now, if we were to just run this patch antenna and you know, whatever the aircraft is were to get behind us or were to get too high, too low, whatever the case is, we may lose our video signal, or it would start to break up, it would start to get really bad. So where that diversity system comes in handy is you can have multiple antennas, right? So in this case, we can have two, and there's some of the newer goggles from Eachine that run a dual diversity system that can actually have 4 antennas on it, which I think it might be a little bit overkill, but hey, it's what they're doing, and people are buying it. All right, and this next antenna so this next antenna that I have on here, this is an omnidirectional antenna, right? Which, as the name would suggest, can pick up signals from a 360-degree omnidirectional field around my head. So this patch antenna is directional, very strong reception, very good penetration through trees and things like that. That's what she said. And you're going to get very good reception from your patch antenna. The omnidirectional antenna is going to pick up in all directions around you and allow you to, you know, to basically pick up everything where the patch antenna can't get. But an omnidirectional antenna by itself can also do real well if you're not flying really high or really low. If you're staying inside the area that's covered by an omnidirectional antenna, it can do really well by itself. This particular antenna, again, sticking with the video aerial systems, this is a video aerial systems, it is called the Skyhammer antenna, and it is 2 like lollipop style antennas, one on top of the other. This is a variant of the video aerial systems ion antenna. It is called the mini ion, or minion. So it is actually 2 of their minion antennas, you know, one right side up and one upside down, and they join together and it gives it increased gain and a better omni pattern. You know, I did a bunch of, you know, crazy technical research, as I always do, and with this particular setup, with the patch antenna and the Skyhammer, I have had outstanding reception, even going like into woods, behind trees, around the house. I mean, I've been able to get great video reception using this combination of antennas along with the built-in receiver in the sky zones. Now, something else with the antennas, when you're going to buy your FPV equipment, is you are looking, there are different patterns, right? So there are, hold on, we have a special guest.
Oh, no.
What?
I'm not doing it now.
You can't back out now. Yes. Hi. Everybody says hi. All right. So there are, oh, what are they called? I think they're called dipole antennas, which is, you know, just like a straight antenna. And then there are circular pattern antennas. And the thing to keep in mind when you're buying antennas is you need to get antennas that are compatible with each other. The polarized antennas will give you better reception overall, but you need to make sure that all of the antennas that you buy for both your transmitters and your receivers are polarized the right way, right? So the antennas that I have here are what are called right-hand circular pattern, or RHCP, and they also make a left-hand circular pattern. So when you're buying your antennas, you know, for your goggles, you're going to want omnidirectional and you're going to want one patch, and you want them both to follow the same circular pattern as the antenna that you put on your airplane. So on the airplane, I've got a right-hand circular pattern. That is a Foxeer Lollipop version 3 antenna, which is an omnidirectional antenna, but for the transmitter, it's a little different. It works the same, but it's outputting power instead of receiving. It's an active process instead of passive. But yes, for your polarized antennas, you want to make sure that all of your antennas are polarized the same, or you're not going to do very well for yourself. So if you have a left-hand circular pattern antenna on your plane, and on your goggles, your receivers have right-hand circular pattern, you might get what?
That's not going to work, right?
No, it's not going to work at all.
It's
It's
not
not going to work worth a crap. Look, everybody's got the UMX Dobermans. That's awesome.
They're trying to eat the Amazon guy, FedEx dude.
There was a FedEx dude? What was he dropping off? Flower pots?
Oh, yeah.
Is that what it was? Everybody misses Amy, but not me, and it's cool.
Really?
I'm just kidding. Yes, everybody, I love the UMX dogs. Hey, for those of you that were not aware, the UMX dog emoji is also one of the perks of becoming a member. And I know that a lot of people are like, I'm not paying to be a member on anybody's channel, but it's $1.99 a month. That gives you access to quite a bit. So if you want to join in the fun and have some UMX emoji dogs, UMX Dobermans.
How do you tell the difference between that? One's old and one's fat.
How do we tell the difference between the two
dogs.
UMX Dobermans? Yeah. One of them's old and has no teeth.
And the other one's
And the other one is a fat, chunky girl.
So, from a distance now, like, no, all bets are off. But
Yeah, you really can't tell when you're on the other side of the fence. They
they'll
both
eat your
seem,
face off.
yeah, they both seem rather intimidating.
One of them will eat your face off.
Yes. The girl dog will bite, and she's nasty.
Only if you're, like, trying to hurt somebody, like me, mainly. I don't think she really cares. about
Yeah,
you.
if someone's trying to hurt me, she don't give a crap. All right, so far we've talked about goggles, we've talked about antennas, we've talked about polarization of those antennas, either dipole or polarized, right-hand circular patterns, left-hand circular patterns. You need to make sure everything is the same. For dipole antennas, one thing I will say is typically you're going to find those in your transmitters, which is going to be almost the next thing that we talk about. And if you're using a dipole antenna on your transmitter,
What? That one registered on the Richter scale. That was gross.
then it doesn't matter what circular pattern you use on the goggles. You can use right hand or left hand circular pattern on the goggles on your receiver, and you're still going to pick up the signal no problem. I prefer using.
Don't look at me.
Yeah, I prefer using polarized antennas on all of my equipment, and it has proven to have worked out well so far. I've only been doing this like a month though, so what do I know? There's people out there that know a lot more about this stuff than I do.
I think you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, so I just do a lot of research and pretend like I know what I'm talking about. And then I want you guys to trust that I know what I'm talking about. So I fake it till I make it. You know what I'm saying? But so far, it has worked out well, and I am just sharing my learning experience with you guys so you guys can make the right decisions if you want to try this stuff out. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about is the camera. What the heck? Now we're moving from the stuff that's on your face to the stuff that's in the airplane. And here's where things get pretty fun. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the canopy, the battery. Where's my tab? Oh, no.
Do you want me to get it?
Oh, there's so much stuff. We don't need this right now. All right. So, here we've got the battery hatch cover and the canopy for the P-47 that we have turned into an FPV airplane. And what I want to show you guys, if I've got, I probably don't, and that's okay.
What are you looking for?
I should have like a chopstick or something where I can point to things with a chopstick. So anyway,
Okay.
what we're going to do is, so you guys can see, you know, we've got the canopy on there. And right up front, you can see the camera. So right there, that piece right there, that's the camera. And then looking in from the top, you'll see right there, we've got our video transmitter. And on the back, this is the antenna that I was talking about. And if you look right on the top of that antenna, and I don't know if it's gonna focus in on that or not. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But you can see that it says lollipop, and right under where it says lollipop, it says RHCP. Y'all see that? So that RHCP is right hand circular pattern. Now, so that's our antenna that we have on the airplane. Does it need to stick up that high?
Camera.
That's right. That's the camera. You didn't move it, did you?
No, I just touched it.
It's at a very specific angle.
I didn't move the angle. I just was touching it.
That put fingerprint on it. Yes. All right.
So it's like first person view.
Yes. FPV. First person
FPV.
view. That is correct. Now also
Which for
on
somebody
the
like me might be a good idea.
on the
Just saying.
camera or on the canopy, I have cut out the area where the camera is going to look through. So that kind of hazy plastic doesn't interfere with our view. I had a suggestion from someone that took like snow goggles and cut out
No way,
a
that's
section
brilliant.
of the snow goggles, a real
Yeah.
clear plastic of snow, like snow goggles, and put those over the canopy. Cut that out and put those in its place. But I actually want to have a lot of airflow in there because the video transmitter unit gets hot, really hot. So we'll get to that in a second. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the camera, right? There are two different types of cameras out there that you're going to want to use for like airplane applications. You can basically use any kind of camera you want. This is like a nano camera. This is the CADX Ant. And for the most part, you're going to see cameras referred to by a couple of different metrics. One is going to be TVL, which is TV lines or lines of resolution. This one is a 1200 TVL camera. And the other is going to be its focal length, or you'll see it listed in millimeters. So typically the smaller the focal length, the wider the field of view. So if you've got a longer focal length, it's going to narrow in that field of view. Most of them that I have seen have been, all of them are going to be fairly wide angle. This particular one I think is a 1.8 millimeter focal length, and it's got a pretty wide field of view. Which allows me to, to have a better overall picture, but it also kind of messes around with your depth perception a little more. So, the longer your focal length get in, think of it like here's, a short focal length is going to be very wide field of view, and the longer focal lengths are going to get much more narrower field of view, but much more zoomed in, and much more focused. I wanted to be able to see as much as I could out of the front window, and your focal length with that, to me, is a better simulation of how you're going to be able to see with your peripheral vision. It does have a little bit of a fisheye type of sensation to it, but I feel like I'm going to be better off having...
right hand circular.
Yes. I feel like I'm going to have better success with a shorter focal length than I would with a longer focal length. Now, basically when you're looking for a camera, you're looking for something that's going to fit, and you're looking for something that's going to have the right focal length. For this one, like I said, this is like a nano-sized camera. It works very well, and you can fit this in almost any application, and I want to say the camera was $19. It was very cheap. So when we start talking about the equipment that goes in the plane, this is very cheap stuff. I think the VTX unit, which is the video transmitter, which is what we're going to be talking about next, that video transmitter was like $13, and the antenna was like $9, so we're talking like $40.
I live in Dexter's laboratory.
Yeah. We got like soldering irons and all kinds of stuff thrown all over the place. But I want to say, like, everything that went into here, and this is not the cheapest components that are available. This is all modular.
Even cheaper.
You could do it even cheaper.
Do it like project.
I think Motion RC actually carries...
Fly through a ring of fire.
Through a ring of fire would be awesome. I think Motion actually carries an all-in-one camera that I was fairly tempted in wanting to try out, but I decided to go with a modular system instead, and I'll tell you why here in a moment. So the other thing that I've got in here is right down there is a servo. That servo is what's going to drive my panning that's going to follow my head around. So as I'm flying, if I turn my head to the left or I turn it to the right, that camera that's sitting on that servo is going to follow me around. Now, all these orange pieces that you see in here, so like that orange...
He printed them.
That orange pedestal here that the antenna is mounted to, as well as the orange pedestal that the camera is mounted to, those are all 3D printed parts that I designed in Fusion 360 and printed, and that one is epoxied to a servo horn on the bottom, and that's how it is attached to the servo. And I've got it set where the camera is sitting directly over the pivot point or over the gear of the servo. So as the servo turns, the camera is exactly on axis with the gear of the servo as it spins around. So I'm not going to get like any kind of weird sweeping. It's like it's sitting directly over the pivot point. So it's going to be a perfect, axial rotation instead of the camera being up here and kind of getting swept around and doing weird stuff. So,
So when are you going to try it out?
I'm going to try it out soon. Now,
Soon?
I was talking about the VTX. The VTX that I've got in here is called, the brand is iFlight. I believe it's called an iFlight Success Micro
Keep
Force.
looking at me, I don't know.
Yeah. And that VTX, it is a 5-watt VTX. The camera can actually take up to like 28 watts, or 28 volts. So you could run the camera directly off your battery. 1.21 gigawatts. The VTX, however, can only take 5 volts, which is why I had to use a voltage regulator in this particular setup, but that's okay because those are cheap too, like $5. The VTX is got a UFL to SMA connector, so I can hook up any kind of antenna I want, and the antenna that the all-in-one unit that they sell on Motion RC, which has the VTX and the camera, it's multiple. It's got multiple power stages, but it is a dipole antenna, and I did not want that. I wanted to be able to place the antenna wherever I wanted. I wanted to be able to use a right-hand circular pattern antenna, and I wanted it to have adjustable wattage. So the other thing that you can see is, maybe you can see it, there's a little hole
As the servo turns.
right next, the servo turns. So there's a little hole right next to my finger in the canopy, and that is so I can take like a toothpick, and there.
Dude, people ask you how many airplanes you have in front of me.
Huh?
Okay. So.
And using the toothpick, I can press the button on the top of the video transmitter and change the channel, I can change the band, and I can change the power output. This supports 0.1 milliwatt, 25 milliwatt, 50 milliwatt, 100 milliwatt, 200 milliwatt, and 300 milliwatt output. At 300 milliwatt output, this thing gets hot, real hot. So that is another reason that I have the windows cut out and I have the VTX sitting where it is. So that's our VTX module kind of sitting like right there. And so I've got the airflow coming in, and someone gave me this brilliant idea that, hey man, if you've got a hole in the front of your canopy, it's going to rip the canopy right off of the airplane, the battery hatch cover right off the airplane, which is probably true. So I also cut a nice hole in the back, and as you can see, my antenna mount is hollow from front to back, so airflow can get through the antenna mount, kind of by design, and it will flow across the top of the VTX through the antenna mount and out the back to allow plenty of airflow to get across that VTX and keep it cool. So, I did take a few design considerations when I was designing all the parts and how they fit. So,
This is what you do while I'm at work all day?
what, make
make
3D printed parts?
Weird stuff?
No,
Cool stuff?
no, I did this all weekend.
I'm jealous. Is that what you were doing all weekend?
Yeah.
I was sleeping.
Yep. So for those of you that were able to join me for the live stream this past Saturday where I had Fusion 360 open, that is the final product of those parts that I was designing in Fusion 360. And now I've got them all printed out. I've got everything epoxied to the plane, and the next part, I didn't want to maiden it before tonight's show because I wanted to show you guys all of this stuff on the airplane, you know, before I destroy it.
Rusty. Okay, the dogs are crying, so I'm gonna go get that box so
Okay.
they don't like.
Yeah, that's fine.
Alright.
But thanks for
Yes,
hanging
I
out
know.
with us.
Yeah, I have no idea what you were talking about, but it's
All the things.
all the things. It's really cool.
First person view.
I know.
Yes.
I'm more concerned about learning to fly myself.
We're going to teach you how to fly.
I
We're teaching Amy how to fly, y'all. That's something else that's pretty cool. So, everybody say bye to Amy. Bye, y'all. All right. So, like I mentioned, the VTX that I've got, or the video transmitter that I have in the airplane, and that's all the components that go inside the airplane, right? So, you've got your camera and a VTX and an antenna. Sorry, man. The UMX dogs are going crazy. That's probably not a bad idea, George Watts. Yeah, let somebody that can see the plane, you know, be the master radio. That's probably not a bad idea. I may very well do that. So at our field, they don't mind FPV, fixed wing flying at all. Like I mentioned, the VTX, so there's a couple of different ways of doing the camera. You can either do what's called an all-in-one camera, which is the camera, a VTX module, which is your video transmitter, and the antenna, all in one unit. And typically they will take a very wide power range, you know, from like 6 volts all the way up to like 28 volts, and allow you to power it straight off of your flight battery. And it will transmit the signal out. You can pick it up on your goggles just fine. And it's a very simple setup. This one's a little more complex in that I've got the servo in there to get the panning action, excuse me. And I've got the, man, my dogs are ridiculous. And I've got the separate VTX in there with the type of antenna that I want to run and the position that I want it. So I feel like this setup is going to give me better picture quality. It's going to give me better reception. And I'm going to have more power bands available if I wanted to go longer ranges with the airplane. Not that I do, but the option is available to me if I feel like doing that. Now, one of the things that I mentioned is that the camera in my setup can take voltages from, I believe, 6 to 28 volts, but the VTX is very strictly 5 volt input power, right? So what I did was I grabbed a 5 volt, you know, so and really what this is, some of you guys with voltage regulators, if you never knew what a battery eliminator circuit was, it's a voltage regulator. So it takes high input power, converts it to low output power. So this is specifically a buck only voltage regulator. You can get what's called a boost voltage regulator, where it takes low input power and boosts it to high. This is a buck voltage regulator that takes high input voltage and runs it down to low input voltage. So this can take anywhere from 2 to 6S power and convert it down to 5 or 6 volt output based on the position of this jumper. For those of you guys that recognize this, this came out of an EC-1500 airplane. So this is a battery eliminator circuit, but like I said, a battery eliminator circuit is a voltage regulator, and these work very well for that purpose. So what I've done here is I have crafted a male end of a a JST, I believe, XH, you know, like a balance lead. The male end of a balance lead that spans across all of the cells of a 4-cell battery. So I can plug that directly into the balance lead of a 4-cell battery, run it into my 5-volt voltage regulator, and give me exactly nice conditioned 5-volt output power on that JST connector right there. And I plug that into the harness that goes up to the VTX and out to the camera. So the camera and the VTX are getting pure, unadulterated, 5-watt regulated power, nice, clean, steady, 5-volt power. And as the voltage of the batteries fluctuates, that 5-volt power stays right where it is. So, let's see. We already talked about the servo. The servo that I have in here is a standard plastic gear analog servo. It is, in fact, it's a Spectrum A330, I believe. Let me look. Yes, Spectrum A330. So I had some bad servos in my Commander MPD. I pulled them all out. I put in Metal Gear servos, Metal Gear digital servos in the Commander MPD. I grabbed one of those servos that I took out of the Commander. I put it in here. Now, what I have heard is... No, Randy, it's not sine wave. It's DC. If it was sine waves, it'd be AC. Alternating current, direct current. Direct current is like a laser beam of power right to the nuts. All right. Yeah, so that's just a standard analog servo. At some point, I will probably replace it with a digital servo. And the reason why is analog servos and digital servos tend to have better resolution. So they don't have as many steps, you know, as you're moving. So if I want to make real fine head movements to the right or the left, the analog, you know, especially through the camera, could be a little jumpy. You know, like... You know, where the digital, the dogs didn't like that sound effect. So the digital servo is going to have a much, you know, cleaner sweep through, God, these dogs are dumb, through the field of view, with a higher resolution and cleaner, sweep as I'm going through. So I may replace that servo at some point with the digital servo, but for now I'm going to try the analog, see how I like it, and if everything works out, we're going to stick with the analog servo. All right. Yeah, so I had thought about running the VTX and camera on a separate battery, like just run like a 2S, like maybe a 300, 500 milliamp hour, just small 2S pack. But ultimately I decided to go with the flight battery because the flight battery, you know, the way that I'm running it with spanning across all of the cells of the battery, I mean, it's running such a low current. It's kind of like, you know, running your, I mean, it does use more current. Admittedly, it uses higher current than a light burner unit, but not that much more. You know, it's not like it's sucking 50 amps of of power across the thing. I think the voltage regulator is only rated for 3 amps. So it's less than 3 amps. I think it might be in the milliamps, actually. I think it's probably like 500 milliamps that it's using to power the the VTX and the camera. Even at 300 milliwatts of output power on the VTX, it's only using like 500 milliamps total. So it's still a very reasonable amount of power. And if it affects my flight times at all, it's going to be by seconds, not minutes. So I just elected to go ahead and run it off the flight battery. Bah, whatever. If it ends up screwing me up in the long run to run it off the flight battery like that, then I will figure out a different way of doing it. Shadow, sorry, dude. What is up, Jeff's Custom RC? How you doing, brother? George, that's exactly what's going on. So George says that all of that was just a cover-up, and wants to know what the real story is. Am I really pumping porn into the goggles? So, like I mentioned, the goggles have an HDMI input right there, right? So, as long as you have a cable that will plug into them, and I do, you can put anything that you want coming into these things, and you've got the headphone jack right there that you can run into some earphones, so you could watch movies on these things. Any kind of movie you want. Any kind of movie. And since no one else can see the screens, no one's gonna know what you're doing. Yes. All right. So that is that's not all. That's not all. So what the last part that I wanted to get to was taking a set of these here goggles that has a head tracker output and setting up your transmitter to use the head tracking output to control the servo input of the radio. So I can show y'all how to do that, or if nobody cares, that's cool too. Give me just a second, I gotta go let my retards into the house. Come on. All right. No, Jeff, this is too much free time. You guys should get a big kick out of this. And it's something that you guys have all seen before, so I'd already let Rusty in.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Yeah, I let him in.
Well, she went up the stairs, so I didn't want to.
Okay. All right. So, what time is it? 9:15. So we are doing good on time, fellas. All right. So I'm going to switch over to my handy dandy IX12. Yeah. Gooniac, that's awesome. How do they look, man? Are they looking good? All right. So this has switched over to the P47. Hopefully y'all can still hear me. And now we're just goofing off inside of this here radio. All right, and we can see over here we've got our monitor channel. And so the number one thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that the receiver that we're using has enough output channels to drive the number of servos that you want. Whether you're doing, if you're going to do head tracking. So you're either going to have a pan servo that's going to go left to right, or you're going to do, oh, you can hear the IX12 also? That's pretty cool. All right. So, and if you want to do tilt as well, you need to make sure that you have two outputs. So pan would be, left to right, tilt would be up and down. So your X and Y axis. Now, in order for us to do that, the way that you get the head tracking to work is you set it up using your trainer, right? So we go into model setup and we go into trainer. We'll go into wired trainer. So on these particular goggles, they've got a wired output. On the Spectrum goggles that were made by Fat Shark for Spectrum, those actually have a DSMX transmitter built into them so they can connect over the wireless trainer ports of Spectrum transmitters, which is what makes the Spectrum goggles really cool if you're going to do head tracking with them. But for most other ones that don't have a DSMX, transmitter built into the goggles, we have to go with the wired trainer. So you would hit wired trainer, we'll go to proceed, and you'll see up here it's set up for FPV, right? And you have several different options. So typically, if you weren't running a wired trainer, it would just be set to inhibit, right? But we want to turn it on and we want it to be set to FPV, right? So now our transmitter is treating the goggles. I'm sitting here holding the goggles like you guys can see them right now. The transmitter treats the goggles as though it is a student radio, right? And like it's a separate radio in the system. So right now I have it set on switch F, and what that means is that I can take control. If I want to fly line of sight, I will turn, I'll flip switch F, and I will take instructor control. But if I want the student to control a specific channel, I can flip that switch down and fly the plane in head tracking FPV mode. So that's what the switch does, is it turns that on and off. Your other four things here where it has throttle, aileron, elevator, rudder. So your four main controls, your four main channels. We don't ever want the student to have control. We're going to have instructor control for all of those. For this, it says that the output channel is gear. That is not true. We actually want the output channel. In this particular case, it's going to be set to aux. Oh, let's see. It's going to be aux 2. And the mode is instructor, which is correct. Right? So now when we exercise that switch, or switch F, it will turn the student trainer mode on and off. And when I have the goggles plugged into the trainer port on the back of the radio, so they've got like the connector on them, and we'll go back to my regular screen here. So I would connect the goggles into the trainer port on the back of the radio, and whenever I have the goggles turned on and I have the head tracking turned on, as long as I set the output channel on the goggles up correctly, as I move my head around, it will now control the aux2 channel. And that is awesome. You know, that allows us to use the head tracking of the radio, and we can also fly line of sight. If we didn't bring our goggles with us that day, or we just want to fly the plane line of sight, we can go back up to instructor control from student control and fly the plane line of sight, and we can still operate the pan and scan. So say I wanted to, for example, fly the plane but have the goggles sitting on the bench. So I want to fly the plane line of sight. I can have the goggles sitting on the bench with the DVR going, and I can still use, I can turn the head tracker off, and I can still use my right slider to control the panning of that servo. And if we go back over to that other screen, you can see when I operate my right slider, it moves aux2 back and forth. So aux2 on my receiver is running the pan servo, and you can see that moving back and forth with that slider. So that is how you get the trainer port to accept the head tracker output of the goggles and use the trainer function of the radio to get your head tracking working, and also how you can turn that on and off. And at least on a DX9 and better, you can use your slider to operate the FPV camera, which is awesome. All right. Now I get to talk about some of the other toys that I have. What's going on, James? Yeah, so I'm a little bit intimidated by flying FPV, man. I'm a little bit worried about how that's gonna be in like a jet. And Patrick was like, I'm going balls out, and I'm gonna strap a camera in my T-33. Like, well, all right. Like, you do that. I think, the OV-10 would be awesome. Victor, I'm getting a little better. I'm feeling a little more. Things around here will never be normal again, but I'm getting back to being more like me again. So it's good to be able to bring some excitement back to the show and get some new things and try out new stuff and wear some new shirts with some new logos and some hats. And did you guys see these? Freaking, you guys? I got some pillars. No, James, I agree, and on both accounts, I don't think that my son would want me to be miserable forever. So ever since going back to the field, like this past Wednesday, or maybe it was the Wednesday before, My spirit is getting a little more rekindled, and I'm feeling a lot better, and I'm getting excited about the shows again. It's not like it's like, oh, I got to do this for the people. I can get back in there and I can share all of the things that you guys have been used to seeing from me prior to, a month ago. We're getting back in it now. So we've got this FPV stuff coming up, which is exciting because we're going to be flying with James and Patrick, and we're going to be crashing and trying to fly formation, and we're probably going to end up touching tips, wing tips, you freaking filthy perverts, wing tips. Yes, Randy. So I'm using one channel for pan. I do not have a tilt channel because I don't need one. Yes. Yes, James. So I believe that the intent is to fly in formation. So Patrick has a Mustang that is about the same scale as this P47, and about the same price too. Well, not really. I don't remember how much I paid for this P47. I believe it may have been provided for review. I may not have paid anything for it. So I may have a lot less to lose than Patrick does. All right. So, also, as a lot of you guys know, I have a couple of drones now. I have a couple of quads. And this is kind of where I got that itch, So Patrick, who you guys know from Motion RC's videos, Motion RC has been, has been getting Patrick to fly some of their newer airplanes here for the past year or so. Heck, about the last year and a half. And Patrick is a good friend of mine. Patrick is also the guy that taught me how to fly about 4 to 5 years ago. Excellent pilot, as you guys have seen, especially if you've watched any of the late the MiG-29 videos that have come out here lately. He's done all the piloting for those MiG-29 videos, and he just turns that thing loose. It is awesome. That's another thing. If you have any doubts about the MiG-29, take all those doubts, crumple them up into a wad of dirty Sanchez, light that on fire, and chuck it in the nearest garbage can, and click the frickin' buy button, because you don't want to miss out on that MiG-29. It is as fabulous as it looks. It is everything you expect it to be. Buy it. You will absolutely not be disappointed. If you can fit it in your car, if you can strap it to the top of your car without your car flying away driving down the highway, get one. They're awesome. That is the best looking plane that I have seen from Motion RC yet. And that says a lot because I love my F-18. I love my F-18. That MiG-29 is sharp. That is a good looking plane. You will love it. That digital camo pops. I'm not a big fan of the Tiger Blood Charlie Sheen sign on the rear, but it doesn't look bad either. And it's just the air presence is amazing. What an awesome plane. It's awesome. Just get one. Just get it. I mean, if you have to put it in a red radio flyer frickin' wagon and drag it to the frickin' flight field because you can't fit it in your car, and you just gotta tow it on a wheel, towing it behind a bike, do that. Get it. Do it. Do it. So anyway, MiG-29, badass. I've seen it. It's badass. So I've got a couple of quads now, and I believe I have experienced why people that fly quads hate Spectrum radios. So I was flying out over my field, and I'm doing my thing, and I've actually got some footage on my GoPro of it. I had my GoPro strapped in, and it's flying, and it's doing its thing, and bleh, it falls right out of the dang sky. Come on, man. I never lose signal. Well, I take that back. I've lost signal a couple of times with airplanes, but because of the way that airplanes fly, a lot of times when you lose signal on an airplane, as long as you get it back relatively quick, a lot of times you don't notice, if we're being honest. With this thing, I noticed immediately, and this turd just whoosh, just fell out of the sky. I did recover it. It didn't hurt it. Everything was fine. And I do have video footage of that. In fact, I've got the SD card sitting here. I may be able to pull it up and show it to you because it's kind of funny. It's just it falls about 150, 200 feet down and lands on its feet. So that was pretty impressive. But that was something that I only want to have happen one time ever. So I immediately started looking for a crossfire module for my IX-12 because I've already got an IX-12. I mean, that thing cost me a lot of money. Why not use it? So I started looking for a crossfire module. The crossfire module that's compatible with the IX-12 costs about $208. And I was like, all right, you know, whatever. I'm going to get me a crossfire module. I'm never losing signal on one of these stupid things ever again. And as it turns out, apparently Team Black Sheep and the crossfire module is really popular. And wait, what are y'all talking about? Go from full confidence to unsure of everything. Oh, yeah. Signal loss is the worst. I totally missed that first line. Yes. So I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm not messing with that anymore. I'm getting crossfire. Because crossfire is the bomb, right? Or so I've heard. It'll go for miles. It'll penetrate through anything. That's what she said. And I just felt like I had to have it. Like that was what I needed to fly quads on, and anything that I was even going to go potentially longer than line of sight, it needed to be crossfire. So I started searching high and low, trying to find a crossfire module, and apparently the TBS crossfire module is like the hottest ticket in all of RC for like the last 3 or 4 years because they are sold out everywhere, and you basically put yourself on a waiting list. And when they make it, you get it. You know, like, we don't know when we're getting them again. Whenever TBS sends them to us, and we've already got like 47 back orders. So, like, number 47, 48, 49, you know, are going to be waiting for like a year to get the thing. And I was like, man, that sucks. So, I found this other thing, you know, called the Crossfire Micro TX. And I have it on good authority that the Micro TX V2 is going to be capable of 1 watt of output power, which is amazing for its size. This coming Wednesday, they're doing a firmware update to the Crossfire Micro TX V2 to give it 1 watt of output power, which is phenomenal. And that thing was $70 for a JR module. And I was like, well, shit. For 140 plus 100, plus 70 for like $2 more than the full-size Crossfire module. I got a Radio Master TX16S with OpenTX and the Crossfire Micro TX V2, which will be capable of 1 watt of output power here very shortly. I'm pretty excited about this thing. I don't know what it can do yet. I am definitely looking forward to trying it out on a wide variety of things. I may bind this to the P47 to see how the DSMX compatibility works. So far, and for those of you that hung out with me on my, the live stream I did on Saturday, you guys actually got to see me take this thing like fresh out of the box right after the post office dropped it off. There is nothing so far about this radio that's not impressive for the amount that you pay, and I gotta wonder where the drawback is. And if there is no drawbacks, I gotta wonder how much other companies are charging for software development fees, because the only way that I can see them making this at the price that they are and not charging the same amount as, say, a Horus, which also uses OpenTX, or an IX12, is because OpenTX is open source and they didn't have to pay for software development. They just made hardware that would work with OpenTX, and they're just selling the hardware. Because they're pretty freaking clear in their manual that they do not support OpenTX, right? They'll support the radio if it breaks, but if you got a problem with OpenTX, that's your problem to figure out. So, like I said, I'm really looking forward to trying this thing out. This is kind of a new experience for me. You guys know I've been a Spectrum guy for a long time, but I am definitely looking forward to getting, digging deep inside of this. Again, this is the Radio Master TX16S. It is a brand new release. This one is touchscreen ready. I have tested the touchscreen. The touchscreen works. You can see, little crosshairs, and you can see things, moving around. And you can see the coordinates when you go to like the analog calibration features or analog debugging. You can see your finger tracking around on the screen. So it already has the touchscreen, but it won't be available until the new version of OpenTX comes out. So I'm ready to see what this thing is all about, and I'm definitely ready to see what Crossfire is all about, because as you can see, it does have the Crossfire antenna. For now, it's just got like the Immortal T style Crossfire antenna. You can upgrade this to like the Diamond antenna for like really long range, but apparently, with this antenna, this thing is capable of ranges at like 20 plus kilometers. I say now that I will never fly that far, but I might. I said that when I couldn't. I will never fly that far, but now that I can. So, George Watts, we will certainly see. I don't feel like I am a traitor, because I am still going to use I'm still going to use my my IX-12 on all of my fixed wing stuff. I'm certainly, if I have a bind and fly airplane that comes with a bind and fly receiver, I'm going to pair that with a Spectrum radio, not a excuse me, not a Spectrum compatible radio. I will certainly try it out for kind of the novelty, and I may even try it out, like I said, on Test Dummy over here. This thing is like my test pig for everything now, until it crashes and burns, and then I have another one that I can make into test pig number 2, the FW190. Yeah, until this thing like crashes and destroys itself, this is going to be my test bed for like everything. So my first fixed wing plane that I fly it on will probably be this. This is running an Admiral TX-16S, and one of the reasons that I want to do it is because someone had specifically asked the question, can you use a Radio Master TX-16S with an Admiral RX-600 SP? Well, now I have a Radio Master, TX-16S. This airplane is outfitted with an Admiral RX-600 SP, receiver. So, I'm testing it out. Just because I can do what doesn't mean that it's illegal. What you guys talking about? Watch out for the feds. Y'all got to fill me in. Y'all got to fill me in. What am I doing that's illegal? Like, I ain't afraid. I'm not gonna run like. Are y'all talking about the Crossfire radio at 900 megahertz running at 1 watt being illegal? Flying too far? Oh, that's BS. As long as someone can see it, we're all good. So, listen, there's ways around everything. As long as somebody has line of sight of that plane, it doesn't have to be me. It just has to be one of my spotters. It doesn't say that I can't have a network of spotters who are all on the phone with each other as long as someone has visual line of sight of that plane. We could coordinate this and have like 10 miles of spotters who are all on the phone with each other watching this stupid plane as it flies across the sky. But this thing can only run for 6 minutes. So there's no way I'm flying 10 miles with that thing. I don't know, RC Stinger. I have never flown over water FPV before. Does water muck with the FPV signal? I've never tried that. Beyond whose line of sight? My spotter's line of sight? Because everything that I've seen on this subject would suggest that you have to maintain line, that your spotter, because I clearly can't see it, I am FPV. I cannot see it. But my spotter, who I'm required to have, has to maintain visual line of sight of the aircraft. But nowhere in any of that stuff does it say that I can only have one spotter, right? So as long as all of the spotters can communicate in near real time, and they're all, say, on the phone with each other, as long as my spotter has visual line of sight, I'm good to go. It's all about the loopholes, baby. I like those pillows too. Gary, yes, that is good news. So I assume, I am pretty sure that the Jumper T16 and the Radio Master TX16 have the same multi-module in them. Or at least the TX6 or the T16 Pro that had the internal multi-module. I think that they are all running the same firmware, if not the exact same module. So if you are able to run yours on all your bind and fly models, then I feel pretty comfortable about this thing working with the Admiral RX 600 SP. I just need to I need to figure out all the nuances of binding, not so much binding, but setting up all of the channels in OpenTX. It looks not necessarily complicated, but different than Spectrum. Where I've got to set up inputs and outputs and mixes and all kinds of other weird things. So I still need to do a little bit of reading on that and figure out how to get all that working. And then once I do, it's kind of off to the races and start building out these models for everything. Doo-doo-doo. Bravo. Yeah. So I don't plan on flying anything underwater, but I will certainly sail something underwater. So when these new submarines, come out, if and when, I am certainly looking forward to trying out a submarine. And I hear that the best radios for submarines are old school, like 27 and 72 megahertz radios. Apparently they can penetrate underwater fairly far. That's what she said. That's right, Joseph Youngblood. So, people that were in the military are the worst at finding loopholes in everything. Like, we were the reason that laws just kept getting changed over and over and over again. Like, hey, you're breaking the law. But am I? The law doesn't say that I can only have one spotter. The law just says that my spotter has to have visual line of sight of the aircraft. And my spotter is here, and I have another spotter a mile up, there, and I have another spotter that's 5 miles away, and all three of them have visual line of sight of the airplane right now. So, suck it. David Martin Graff, that's pretty cool. And I have seen that. Are those like quads Or are they like big quads, octocopters? Are they fixed wing drones? Do you really have control of it? Or are you just kind of guiding it around? So, to be honest with you, I don't I don't ever plan on flying that far away that a spotter couldn't see the plane. Um, Most of the stuff that I intend to do with these quads and drones, with quads, as I get more into them and more comfortable flying them, I may try some of like the freestyle stuff, but all with the intent of supporting my fixed wing addiction and my drive to create more engaging content for the channel, right? So one of the things that I will share with you guys is that Amy is getting her own airplane, and we're going to be teaching her how to fly on that airplane and kind of documenting our experience. Now, the idea here is that once Amy can fly, while I may do the first couple of flights of an airplane, I want either Amy to learn how to fly the quad and follow me around with the quad, or I want Amy to fly the plane and I will follow her around with the chase quad. So I want to get like a freestyle quad that I can get up to a respectable speed, 80, 90, 100 miles an hour. I know that's fast, but I want to get a quad that can get up and jam and keep up with jets if I need it to. So that's kind of my goal, is to use them far more for cinematic close-in stuff where I am following somebody who is flying line of sight. So technically it should never be out of my line of sight. And the other stuff, yeah, I mean, it's all in the name of getting engaging content, not to go out and be like some kind of, FPV superstar. And the crossfire and all that stuff, I mean, that's because I just don't ever want to lose signal again. And in the research that I have done on the subject, it would look like crossfire is probably the best out there. I'm not saying that there aren't alternatives and that there isn't some contention in that space, but it looks like a lot of organizing bodies would agree that crossfire is probably the way to go if you're gonna want the most stable link between your radio and your model. So putting a camera in a jet is really cool. Chasing a jet with a drone, to me, there's no better footage out there than the airplane that's flying through the sky and the quad coming up and like going around the airplane as it's flying through the air. I love that footage. I think it's awesome because you get like this awesome perspective of the plane as it's flying through the air. And when it's done right, it looks phenomenal. When it's done poorly, it's not good. But when it's done right and in good taste and it's not the only thing you're looking at, like when you have a lot of other footage that you're watching to go along with it, you know, a plane coming around that you're watching maybe from a camera on the ground, and then switch, you know, to some footage of a quad with a GoPro. I mean, that to me makes for great footage of an airplane. And you know, when we say that like everything goes back into the channel, I mean, we're not messing around. I mean, that's all true. You know, like this GoPro was purchased with the idea of not sticking it on my head, but sticking it right inside this little mount and putting this up in the air right next to the airplane. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that's what I'm all about. I want to get up in there. I want to teach Amy how to fly. I want to get her flying. And then I may do the initial flight where I maybe talk about it or whatever. Or maybe Amy does the initial flight. If she can fly as good or better than I can, I may let her do all the flying and I'll start doing all the filming. And everybody will just be in happy land. Oh, I love it, RC Waz, dude. I love drone footage when it's done in good taste. All right. So listen, guys, we're getting very close to the end of the show. I want to do a shout out for all of the sheriff level members of the channel. So you guys are offering the highest level of support. If you guys want to be a sheriff on the RC Air Marshal YouTube channel, you can do that by clicking the join button in channel memberships and selecting sheriff. There are a couple of special perks that other people will not be getting. Right now, my sheriffs are Mr. Joseph Ramsey, Mr. Jet Tech Don Atkins, Mr. Sandros 54, Ken Sprouse Jr., Mike Keller, at least today, Dennis Farley, the RC Stinger, Flying Times, Mike SSI, Spencer Keith, Dave Kowishki, and William Murgita. Thank you to all the sheriffs. I definitely appreciate all of your support. For those of you guys, Sandros 54, Amy will be learning to fly on the all-new E-Flite Habu 70mm beginner jet. Yes. We are going to be teaching Amy how to fly using a Habu. She's not scared. I'm not scared. We're doing this. Ramsey Glass, thank you, brother. I appreciate that very much. What is up, Roach Coach? All right. So, at the end of all of this, I want to say thank you guys for coming out tonight. Gooniac is coming on in 15 minutes at time 10:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is in 14 minutes. It's 10:01 now. So thank you guys all for coming out tonight. I absolutely appreciate everybody's support that comes and watches these shows and that watches the channels. For you guys that, excuse me, man, excuse the gas tonight, fellas. For those of you guys that may have missed some of my regular output, I am a little excited. I filmed a lot of stuff. I need to get it edited. We got a lot of videos coming up on the channel, so be watching out for all of those. Next weekend, we're going to be doing something really special with the Pilot's Lounge. So with Pilot Ryan, and then on Sunday, we're going to be extending that special something into Sunday with the Merry Boozers, and then we're going to be extending that into a 3-day extravaganza between myself and the Merry Boozers and Pilot Ryan, 3 days in a row of 3 different types of products that we're all excited to show you guys. So be sure to check those out. And this is a special announcement for all you people that stuck around to the end of the show. Thank you guys for sticking around to the end of the show. 35 people will hear this straight from me this Thursday at 4 p.m. Your man, the RC Air Marshal, will be the special guest on the Horizon Hobby Air Hangout show. Yeah! Yeah! George Watts, I'm waiting. Who wants my resume? I will send it to you. So, I'm very much looking forward to that, and I hope to see you guys there to blow up the chat at the Horizon Hobby Air Hangout. That is going to be live on Facebook and on YouTube this coming Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 o'clock Central. Be sure to check the link in the description so you guys can get a hold of the best tees in RC from the RC Air Marshal store. And that's all I got for this week, guys. Thank you guys all for coming out. We love you very much. Airvexed RC, it is good to see you. And we will see you guys all on Thursday. Come blow up the chat. Come say hi. I'll put some notes in the community notes for people that frequent the show here to go and check us out on Thursday. We're going to be hanging out with Jason Merkel and Craig Greening from Horizon Hobby and talking about RC airplanes and whatever questions they ask me. They'll probably ask me how I got into the hobby. And I'm just going to have to answer them honestly, like, I don't fucking know. All right, guys. Everybody have a good night. We will see you in a few minutes in Gooniac Show, and we will see you guys all tomorrow night with Dustin and Jeff's Custom RC in Flight Club. Wednesday night with GB. Thursday night with Kitty. Friday night with Dave's RC. And then I will be on the air again with Pilot Ryan on Saturday, and then on the air again with Wesley on Sunday, and then on the air again next Monday. So you guys all have a great week. You will be seeing me on the inner tubes a lot over the next few days. We will see you guys later. Everybody have a great night. Bye-bye.